Guild Wars 2 is rising, finally. We've had some pretty cool news regarding the game recently, and I decided to contribute with some content. I'm Lu. I present myself as LCA on social media, formerly as Lu Creates, and I make all sorts of creative stuff. I enjoy drawing, I do songwriting, singing, photography, and video editing. And as mentioned sooner, I really enjoy playing a game called Guild Wars 2, from which I also create screenshots and then turn them into digital artworks. Links are gonna be in the description. I have been an active player of Guild Wars 2 for several years now, and lately I have been noticing certain elements of UI and UX part of the game, which haven't really been the best experience for me as a player. So as someone who has background in graphic design and partially UX design, I decided to create alternative solutions to the current UI UX part of the game. This video is gonna be more in the form of presentation, where I'll show you my recreated designs, and we'll also talk about some other potential changes that I would really like to see in the game. I haven't made changes to every single thing that I'm gonna talk about here because of time's sake, but I will try to be as clear and include as many things as possible. So please enjoy. I've put a lot of time into making this video, so I hope it's gonna provide some value. So first, disclaimers. I did not redesign the whole UI. I changed certain parts or elements that look or work slightly differently. I also always stuck to the Guild Wars 2 style. These are suggestions. I am not forcing my ideas to anyone, nor think they are the best solutions for current in-game issues. I created these from my POV and partially from what I also heard in Guild Wars podcasts. So please take it as such. Some changes are also not pixel perfect. They are made mainly to illustrate a different solution. And last disclaimer, I by no means want to belittle the work of designers at Arenanet. I have massive respect for everyone in the studio. I love their product, and this is just my suggestion for how certain elements of the usability part could be a bit better. Thank you! So let's get started. I would like to talk about some basic changes regarding the UI UX overall, and perhaps some other usability things before I move to the actual changes I've made. I will show you the actual changes with my characters, mounts, and builds, just for the illustration. So let's start with settings. First thing I'd love to see would be a search bar for specific settings, so I don't get lost in all the text and buttons. We already have quite a lot of options to adjust the game to our needs, although I feel like there's still many options that could be added to the game. For example, color adjustments, including colorblind modes, better options for one-handed gameplay, resizing specific windows or custom resizing UI in general, post-processing adjustments. So even if I turn my post-processing on, I will not see all the outlines of other NPCs and players. This option could definitely have more levels of usage. It'll be handy at taking screenshots, for instance. Then keybinds. This is a big one, because currently we have only one form of keybind adjustment, and that is applied everywhere across all our characters, which is a bit problematic for a couple of reasons. So my suggestion is that we could create custom keybinds to every build or profession we have unlocked. This could help especially with Mechanist and Untamed, but generally with anything else. Keybind templates would help drastically with comfort and overall experience in the game. Regarding LFG, Party, and Squad UI, I would like to see the icons of actual professions in the squad, not just the core ones if I'm not with them in their instance. Another thing in the squads or parties that I would really love to see is to see stats of a fellow party or squad member. This could be done in a way where I would right-click on their icon, I would click an option to see stats, and it would show me a small window with their attributes. There could also be another way to do this. Let's show an icon of a majority of the stats that they have. So for example, if they would run Harrier, which is plus power, healing and concentration, then it would show the icon for healing power because it belongs to the healing builds. If they would be a hybrid between power and condition damage, then it could show both of these icons. And if they would be running Celestial gear, which focuses on all attributes, then there could be a specific icon for that. So something in this spirit. I thought of these two options, but I'm sure there could be more ways to do this, especially without bullying party members that they have incorrect stats. There's also this thing that when I run with a party member and they have all these boosters and banners, then there's food and their tome icons, trait icons. This is all above their slot skills, but as their party member, I don't really need to see all of that on the left side of my screen, because it often covers a lot of that. I think the amount of icons that's shown to other people in party could be smaller. And moving on to LFG. When I was a new player, I did not really understand LFG nor how to use it, which I find that more people struggle with. So I would suggest to add an option to see some info on how to use LFG, perhaps to explain some basic terminology and introduce types of content. Regarding this very thing, which is partially addressed in the End of Dragons, is to explain better how breakbars work, soft and hard CC, what are the differences between masterwork gear, exotic or ascended, gear stats and difference between power and condition damage, for example. These informations could be better communicated at the leveling, I think, or could have a section in the hero panel as well. Or maybe even to remind people that they need another rune for their aqua breather, otherwise the 6th effect of the rune will not be applied. Moving on to the mounts, and this is just a quick note. When I sit on my mount, the attributes inside the hero panel change. Now, I understand that the mounts have different attributes, but sometimes I want to check my stats even when I'm on a mount. The solution to this would, I think, be to add either an icon or a button next to the word attributes here, where I could swap between my attributes and my mounts. I thought I would touch on trading post as well, but there's more to that, so I'm gonna be mainly focused on the hero panel. I'm gonna go step by step with the menu items and explain how and why I made certain changes. Hero panel is probably one of the most important interfaces we as users interact with, so it should feel comfortable to use. And generally speaking, it is. But there is way too much information packed in one place, and the customization is almost non-existent. And based on the amount of options and items in the game, there should be way more categorization so the users don't get lost in all of the information and variety. This is why I worked with the option to resize the window and with the mentioned categorization of certain items, which I'm gonna show you soon. Regarding all this, I would put the achievements and mastery points into a separate window. So at the hero panel we would have the first 5 categories, because they are directly tied to the character, and the last 2 are more of an account thing. Also, I find it a bit impractical to have all the build items and settings inside the same window where all the achievements in the game are. I'm gonna show you my very quick design idea of how the menu on the left could look like, because that's where the achievement and mastery category would be. I basically merged the icons of achievements and mastery point, so it's clear that they're gonna be in this window. I will not talk about the achievements part here because of time, but I already have some ideas about it, so stay tuned. So the first thing I added was the resize option. This would definitely help if you play on a notebook or have smaller monitor, or even the opposite. Maybe you play on a bigger screen and want to see your character in its full glory and have better view on the gear items as well. I stole a small triangle from the inventory window and placed it here on the left side where we see our gear. Let's call it the gear menu. And the other triangle on the right is placed into the bottom edge of the whole window. Now, each triangle does scaling, but the right triangle scales the height and width of the whole window, but it doesn't scale the width of the gear menu on the left, only its height. So basically it scales the width of the character area only. The space between icons on the right also scales, but not too much. This is what it would look like if I resize with the right triangle. We could also make the character part slightly more narrow when resizing, like this. Also notice that the background texture doesn't scale. I would like to keep it like that. And the left triangle scales the width of the gear menu alone. The width of the menu scales by 1 icon, so there is a set scaling which I found quite practical due to responsivity options. This is what it would look like. Also, ignore the duplicate items, this is just for demonstration. And this is the same logic as in Windows, where if you scale a file explorer, it fully scales the content part, but only the height of the menu. The menu has its own width customization. It is the same principle here. The right triangle is also placed a bit lower than the left one, so it's more visible which triangle affects which area. I made this as maximum and minimum scaling. And some other smaller changes I made regarding the resizing options are this double arrow button next to the X button. By clicking on this, you could return the window size back to default size if you don't like the way you scaled the window. I imagine the default size would be the size of the window that's currently in the game. I also scaled the All drop-down menu on the left, so the width is the same as of the search bar. These changes could be applied everywhere possible. The main window resizing could be definitely everywhere, which would though create more work with the responsiveness, but maybe the left resizing option wouldn't be needed everywhere, I think. And that's on scaling. Next topic, the equipment menu. The very first and quickest thing I want to point out here is the background of the attributes. Because if I have a bigger character, let's say a Char or an Ornn, the model often goes beyond the border of the attributes on the right, and then the attributes are less visible. So I just added a black rectangle and lowered some opacity. Maybe there could be a texture background as well. Another change I made was the alignment of some words in the left part of the window. I removed the hero word next to the equipment because I don't think we need to see the word hero twice. It's already up here. And I made the word equipment larger. We need to see the category we're in clearly. I also changed the big gray square arrow and replaced it with a simpler one. I feel like there's way less visual noise now and it's more elegant. The hover effect though would stay the same. Below that, I scaled the All drop-down button and swapped the two bars with each other. So the search bar is above and the drop-down menu is below that. It makes more sense because the drop-down menu doesn't hide the search bar now when it's expanded. I would also apply these basic changes everywhere in the hero panel. Now, my favorite part, the categorization of items. As we know originally, there is basically no categorization of the inventory gear items here whatsoever. They are sorted the same way as they are in the inventory, which can be very chaotic because as someone who has a lot of various gear, I would like to see it in some sort of order. Especially if I don't know the name of a specific item, I need to look for it in the mess of my inventory or in this gear menu. So I decided to add gear categories. This would be the default look when you open the equipment section, and here is the expanded gear menu. Of course, you wouldn't see it this way in the game. All of these items would be inside the window and you could scroll through them. But I had to create this expanded list so we can actually see all the categories. Let me walk you through it. The first, we have the shared equipment. This is just alternative word for legendary, because technically all legendary items are now shared across characters. This includes armor, weapons, and other legendary gear. Then we have headgear to boots. A following category is going to be armor runes, because it directly ties to the armor above. I did not have any runes on me, which I also used as a demonstration for what you may see if you don't have any items in a certain category. I am still a bit torn between whether to even show this kind of message in an empty category or to show it just empty, so only the name of it. After that there are weapons, sorted from main hand to offhand, including the legendary ones above, and underneath we have weapons sigils. We continue with the gear we have on the right side of our hero panel, so backpiece, amulets, rings, and accessories. Then we got the aquatic gear. I decided to put it down here because we don't really spend as much time in the water, and I feel like we use the trinkets way more often, so that's why they're above. After that we have our gathering tools, and the last two categories are new. The infusion category and other upgrades. Here we can find jewels and crests, as they are also technically a gear. I added these categories because they also affect our stats. If infusions didn't add plus power or plus healing or anything, they would be just fancy fashion items. I was considering adding a drop-down menu to all these categories, so there would be an option to hide each, but since there is so many of them, I decided to not use it. Could be still a potential option though. Okay, moving on to the drop-down menu. This should really help with filtering only or all the items we want to see. This is why I added the checkmark boxes. More on that soon. There is also a thin line separating each equipment group for better organization. Regarding the UI, I also added a soft texture on the menu background so it's not completely black. Now, the usability. What we see right here is the default menu when you just click on the All drop-down button. Then this is what happens when you hover over a category. I added the cursor here. The background is highlighted with the same color as the original version, and the checkmark box is also brighter. Next picture is when you actually click on a certain item. The icons we previously saw behind the drop-down menu are gone because there is already a filter applied, so in this case we could already see all the shared equipment behind this. And the last picture illustrates what it looks like to have multiple items selected, but we are not hovering over anything with the cursor. So in a case where a player wouldn't have any gear in a certain category or categories, text and the checkmark box would be gray and we wouldn't be able to make the checkmark and use the filter. And now we have our items selected and filtered out. The drop-down bar shows us that we have multiple items selected. Below that we see what items we have selected, and below that we see the actual items. With these items we can interact the same way as we can now in the gear menu. The main difference is that these are categorized and filtered. So and there's also another option currently in the game that allows us to equip a piece of gear. And that is when we click on the gear that's near our character. In the current in-game version, clicking on this gear shows us another gear options, including runes and other upgrades. This would be the same thing. We would just see it categorized and with filters applied as well, because it would show all the items we can replace with a selected one and all the upgrades we could apply on that item. So in this case I clicked on a greatsword. It is an ascended greatsword where I have the white pointer arrow, and I see other weapons in the gear menu, including sigils, infusions, and also other upgrades that I can apply on this weapon. In a case where the gear would be fine, masterwork or rare, the infusion category wouldn't actually show because we can generally only apply those on exotic and higher. And we would only see the items that could actually be used with that piece of gear. So this applies for every gear category. When we click on any gear icon that's in this part, including trinkets, we will see all the possible equipment options on the left, just categorized. When you deselect a filter here, it would only remove that one selected category, which can be then reselected at the drop-down menu again without losing the white pointer arrow as well. And regarding gathering tools, I didn't put it into the design because of the way I was progressing, but I would definitely consider to either add fishing lure next to the harvesting tools here in the equipment panel, or put harvesting tools into a joint category with fishing, because in Bang they are both categorized as gathering tools and it actually makes sense. So I thought that they could be somehow unified. I would also like to mention, regarding infusions, that I would love to have an option to hide an infusion on any piece of gear so it would still affect my stats, the effect just wouldn't show. Next topic, wardrobe. For starters, this text could be a bit shorter and aligned more nicely. Secondly, I think the word collection could be removed, because the name of the category and the items below the name are already self-explanatory, and it also saves a bit more space. So here is my variant. The search bar and menu bar are swapped, just like in the equipment part. I kept the build templates icons up here. This way we can swap between builds and change skins like that easily. This option would save us clicking back to the equipment panel and change our equipment there. Here another build template doesn't apply though, so you can change that only at the equipment panel, and this is only for changing skins. I never really understood why there are trinkets here too, because as far as I know we can't transmute them except the backpack, so I grayed out the trinkets while backpack is still transmutable. So there is one main thing that frustrates me a bit about the wardrobe. As an example, there is currently 103 light chest skins available. I have 62 unlocked, which also could be added, the number, and that's just one part of only light armor. There is hundreds upon hundreds skins in the game, and it's also something I would love to have somehow categorized. I was originally thinking about creating categories based on style or coverage, but not only this would be really difficult to do, it also wouldn't be very objective and would cause a lot of imbalance within the armor types. Then a fellow player suggested to me that we could have a favorite skins category. I found this very appealing, and this is already implemented in the dice section. It could work in the same way, and to be fair, it could also be applied almost anywhere in the hero panel. So here is the favorite section and a selected skin section. And so if there's nothing in the favorite section, it remains empty like this. So basically when you select a specific armor piece, let's say I want to change my shoe skin, I'm gonna see all skins that I have, but with the right click I can add any skin to the favorite section, just like with dice. And to unfavorite it, It would show the same window, just with remove from favorites message. Originally in this small window there was a white square, but it didn't feel very useful, so I changed it to a plus sign. I changed the menu as well so it matches the equipment category style, but I also added an option to hide locked items there. Also, an important notion regarding the icons in the wardrobe, or even icons in general. I think the selected ones could be more highlighted, so it's more visible which item I've selected or even hovered on. Now, I actually had a thought that we could see all the existing skins of a selected piece in the skin menu. The ones we don't have unlocked, we wouldn't be able to use, but we would have an option to preview it, just without going to a banker. These locked skins could also be put into the favorite section, just like the dice. I think this could help many players to learn more about various skins in the game, to help the accessibility, and even to motivate players more to get a skin they want. With this in mind, I would add categories for unlocked and locked skins too. Regarding this feature, there's a small detail I would love to see, which I already added here, and that is some information about the skin I've clicked on, especially if it's locked. Maybe how I can get it without looking into the wiki. It would even have a great placement right below this transmutation window, which I grayed out because we cannot use the transmute. So let's say I would want to unlock the Escalon Performer shoes if I didn't have them. Here I would see the location name or some information about where they can be acquired. Maybe there could be a skin link which I could copy to the wiki as well, or just any hint. It's overall just about better accessibility. Next topic, outfits. I have one main thought about this. Let me see the outfits even if I don't equip one, so I can preview the ones I'd like to buy without equipping any of which I already have. That would be really great and would save me a lot of time clicking through things. This is what I imagine it would look like. There is no checkmark up here, because I can't equip a locked outfit, but there could be an X button to remove the preview. Also logically, upon going back to the menu, the outfit wouldn't be applied unless player selects the one he has unlocked. Another thing, when I select Open Gem Store on a specific icon, I'd like to be taken directly to the outfit I chose. I don't want to look for it all over again. This is also an option I would add to all other purchasable items. I also thought about putting a categorization here to have favorites and to see both unlocked and locked outfits. So basically the same change as I suggested in the wardrobe section. I'd also remove the word collection from here, just like in wardrobe. Next topic, dice. The first thing I changed here were the die categories. To make it a bit more uniform, I added a category background from the equipment panel and used it on all of the die categories. So there's not just white text as before, but it is more differentiated with the bars. This is the expanded die menu. I made the favorites category a bit smaller and more uniform as well, compared to what it was before, and I also removed the background of the paint icons and made them a bit smaller as well. I would also love to have more favorite dice. Currently we are at a limit of 8, but about 10 would be great to have. I decided to remove the cog icon. I actually swapped this with the drop-down menu and put the options to sort the dice there. There's currently also not visible enough which filter I chose in the cog menu, because all squares remain white, and I think that could be changed. So here are all the options you can use to sort the colors. Die set, which could be used as default, then hue, material, and I added vibrance. I would love to see colors sorted from, let's say, grayscale, medium, and vibrant ones. This is the Add to Favorites button. For the sake of less clicking, I added the build templates into the upper part of the character section, so you can swap between your armor sets and change their dice directly here, without going back to the equipment panel and back again. Basically the same thing as I suggested in wardrobe. There will be also information about a build on the hover. In a case you would have two templates with the same armor pieces, any changed dice would be the same at both. Then the armor, mount and skiff icons are just moved, and I made them a bit smaller. I also changed the order of the main icons, so it's not outfit, armor, glider and backpack, but just like in the equipment panel, it starts with all the armor, then backpack, and then there is outfit and glider. Regarding applying an actual die, this transmutation charges window should probably say something different, since I am not applying any transmutation charges, only different dice. So we would only see this window when applying actual transmutation charges, but not when we change the dice only. So I figured it could look something like this. Instead of saying that these changes cost X charges, it could just ask you whether you want to apply the changes or reset. When we apply a new color over an already applied one, there could be both colors shown on the hover, so we can clearly see which one we selected as new one and which one is the one that we are replacing, so I don't have to go back and forth to see the name. That's why I added a small arrow here, because we are changing Frostbite Blue into Apricot. I also thought about adding an option to right-click and preview a die, which would be a great way to see the color on more armor parts at once without needing to apply the die on each color square of the armor. And regarding the mount section, I think this could actually be the same as with the skiff section. So I replaced the upper part with the actual name of the mount, because currently we can't see the name anywhere. This is basically the same UI that is on the build templates, just active. And when we click on another mount, the name here will change. The width could be adjusted based on a length of the word, or maybe it could just be wider overall, so the text fits. Last thing I would change is the opacity of the other mount icons. Inactive ones could be slightly less visible, but when clicked on, they would have full opacity. Next topic, mounts. Same rules applied as in wardrobe, so I removed the word collection and added favorites. I moved the checkmark to see original color to the right, because it directly ties to the right part of the window. The mounts are also categorized right now, so it's more uniform with everything else, and even when you search, it shows you categorized skins with your search word in it. The default view would be all mounts on the left, just categorized, and icons on the right would have no highlight. Here maybe could be a drop-down option, since there is not too many mount categories, so you can close or open one. I also added a menu here, where I added a checkmark to hide the locked skins, which could work the same way as in wardrobe. Before there were no actual mount names, so besides the main categories on the left, I would also add a hover message like this here on the right. I think that we could see the skins in alphabetical order as well. I am also not a big fan of having my character name on here, because none of my mount's name is Adam Alex. There is also no pointing arrow when I click on a specific mount, so that's something I would definitely add, because it's everywhere else, and it's a better indication of our selection. The main icons on the right side I kept basically the same, although I would increase the opacity of the inactive icons and would darken them, because when I move my mount around, they get way less visible. I also swapped the Griffin and Sky skill with Warclaw, because I thought it would be better to see them sorted based on main game mode. I would also love to see my character on the mount, so there could be like a checkmark option to add our character to see us with the mount together. Next topic, fishing. So same thing as before, let's remove the word collection and add favorites. As I suggested in the equipment part, this could be somehow merged with the other gathering tools. I would also love to see all skins here as well, so I can see what is available. And let's have a new text, not the one that's used inside wardrobe panel. Also, I still have the Lotus skin in my inventory, even though it was consumed. Perhaps that's not needed. Next topic, skiffs. I removed the collection word and added favorites as well, because I suppose we are going to have more skiff skins in the future. I would also add an option to see our character on the skiff, so I know how big their model is. Next topic, novelties. Same thing as categories before, let's remove the collection word, have favorites too. I'd change this text where it says no items to equip, when I actually do have items to equip, so maybe let's just show all the categorized items here as well. Another thing I'd suggest would be removing the ground or making it smaller just around the item. I think it could make a way better impression when rotating the item, because I don't have to be focused on the floor and where in the space I am, but I can focus on the item only. There could also be added vertical rotation, not just horizontal, just like with mounts. Regarding the novelty categories, we should probably see it from something else than just these icons, just like mounts. Additional options I would love to have at each category would be these. Add chairs. Let's have an option to see our character on a chair. If I don't know the height and width of the chair, I don't know what my character is going to look like while using it. This would apply at the previews for trading posts as well. Instruments. Add an option to hear a demo sound of an instrument. Held items. Show a character holding an item. And Brawl Toys, same thing, let's just show a character holding an item. Next topic, miniatures. I would categorize miniatures and add favorites as well. Here I would maybe just make categories based on either a theme, type, or expansion. So we would see miniatures under like Core, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, and End of Dragons. Alright, so that was my take on the equipment part. Let's move on to the build changes next. I'd like to mention here again that not all changes I talk about here are visualized, but most of them are. I am keeping some of the same changes I already made at the equipment panel, so mainly resizing triangles and some text adjustments. I swapped the drop-down menus here with the search bar as well and put them more far from each other so it breathes more. I also changed the saturation of the icons up here and the brightness a bit too. Then the actual build part. As an option for the builds to be a bit more transparent, I added profession-specific icons to the number of the template up here, so I can clearly see where it's Dragon Hunter, Firebrand, and so on. But that's just a suggestion, for now I'll show things without it. Also, a quick note. When I want to buy a new build template, it would be great if it would just take me to the item right in the trading post. Then coming down, I changed the icons of terrestrial build and aquatic because I did not really like the earth and water symbols. They felt way too simple. So I found these online and changed them a bit to match my vision. I also put them above from the left side because now there's more space to show our skills. I used some of the same UI elements from other buttons on this panel. I also added the swap icons near the weapon skills because I felt like that was missing. And I put the skill icons more far from each other, just like they are on the bottom of our screen. I would suggest to make the picture behind the traits darker, because I feel like at some places it takes away too much attention. Now, the main issue I see here is the readability of skills. First of all, the skills order is upside down, based on where on screen I'm actually changing them. So if I change it up here, they look like this, and when I change them down here, they look like this. Basically reversed. I think this should be uniform and look like the ones we have on the bottom of our screens because we interact with those. So starting with racial skills and continuing to the rest. This is the same thing with skill description. For example, here at Firebrand, when I hover over the tome on the bottom, first it shows the effects upon opening the tome and then stow the tome. But when I click up here, the stow tome comes before the effects upon opening. I noticed that this changes based on where I put my window, but this I think should be uniform because it's based on order of the skill effects. While we're here, I would also like to suggest to remove the transparency of these windows fully, because there is too much visual noise behind it sometimes, which makes it very tough to read. Also, at some classes, Ranger for example, when I hover over a spirit at the drop-down menu, I only see one part of what the spirit does. Let's show the full list, just like when I look at it down here. Another thing regarding the build part is not being able to see skills that are inside some other skills already, such as Druid 5, Warrior Bursts, Shroud, Tomes, and so on. I would suggest to put these into the build part, but without any cooldowns, more on that soon. So here's what I came up with regarding all classes. As we already saw Guardian, here's how it would work. Now, we can't really use any of the tome skills inside this window, so upon clicking on them, we are gonna see the tome skills. This is what it would look like, so the stow arrow would be still there. Then you close it and you see weapon skills again, and then if you want, you can check the tome skills again. With Mesmer, it will be the continuum split, where not much changes, but it could at least demonstrate what it looks like upon clicking. Then Elementalist. Here I could freely swap between elements and see their actions or effects, especially at Tempest or Catalyst. Regarding Catalyst, I would like to see the charge full as well, so not grayed out. The swapping wouldn't actually occur in the gameplay, just here. I could also read the skills of my conjure weapons. Next on menu, Necromancer. We could see all the Shroud skills upon clicking on the Shroud icon. Then at Engineer, specifically Hollowsmith, we would see the skills inside Photonforge like this. I would also do this with the engineering kits, where we would see all the skills the kit has, just like with Conjurers on Ellie. Another problem I see here at the Mechanist is with these F skills above the main skill bar. They go beyond this border. And this is the same problem Untamed has, so I think this needs to be recreated. I'm gonna discuss my solution at the Untamed. There is more things that I would like to say about NG's UI, because I feel like he has been kind of a neglected child among the classes, which I definitely would not risk with someone who has a flamethrower. What always bothered me was that the utility skills are just not well organized. Well, I found that the core NG is the only class who has not 4 but 5 of skills per row. And gadgets are here, then some kits, then an elixir, then kits again, then elixirs. It just feels very disorganized. So I got a simple solution. Let's make this window wider so there is 5 skills of the same category in a row. And let's put everything into a category it belongs in. This is what it would look like. Everything has its own row and it's finally clear where's what. And before I move to Ranger, I would like to see a better way to rename the mech, because a lot of us don't figure out the right click at first, since Ranger has it on the left one. And I think rename pet should be rename mech. Moving on to Ranger, and specifically Untamed, has the same problem as Mechanist. The icons up here go beyond the main space, so it would be the same solution as with NG. So I thought about just making it slightly smaller, and if we are being fancy, the row of icons you hover over could be slightly larger while the other row would be smaller. Another problem with these skills is that the key binding changes, so I would definitely add custom keybinds for every build or profession, as I mentioned in the beginning. So there could be a general keybind setting and some reset button here and option to custom keybind. With both Soul Beast and Untamed, we would also see F5 and be able to click on it to see the skills inside. I decided to place it here above the utility skills. Same would go with Druid, we would see the skills in the avatar form. There are also some changes regarding the pets that I would like to see. First, let's add the swap icon into the pet management window for practicality. Second, I would also add the terrestrial and aquatic icons at the specific pet sets on the left for better readability, and that could be also swappable because I may want to read the skills of my shark even when I'm not underwater. Then third, in the pet list, maybe let's just remove the juvenile word. We know that we need to charm juvenile pets, or it could be an information in the window, but I think it's not necessary to put it at every single pet, especially when I just want to see what kind of animal I'm gonna fight with. Regarding that, maybe they could also be better organized, alphabetically for example, and then there would be sections for Path of Fire, Heart of Thorns, and End of Dragons. 4. I would remove any transparency in this window, just like anywhere else, because it takes away my attention if there are moving things behind it. And 5, under Soul Beast skills, I would also add Untamed ones of the pet with the Untamed icon. Thief. I have such a hard time choosing between the trait lines because they all look so similar and have similar shades of red. I would make it more distinguishable to add like colder red, warm red. Deadly Arts could have some green shades because that's a lot about poisoning. Spectre has a lot of purple animations, so that could be an option. So here's an approximate look. I just changed some specific shades of red so it matches the trait lines more. Also, just like with the other classes, at this part up here we could see the Shadow Shroud skills by clicking on the Shroud icon when we are on the Spectre. And at Deadeye, by clicking Rifle 5 here, we would see all the Sniper skills. I was also considering seeing the special skill from the Elite one. To all Thief variants, I would also add an option to see the stolen skills of a specific profession, so just that I don't have to visit Wiki for that. I would imagine that when we would hover over the stolen skills square, there could be a list of stolen skills. Then Warrior. Regarding Warrior, we could see all the burst skills of the weapon we are wielding. Also at Bladesworn, we would see the skills inside F1 and also F2 Omega skills just by clicking on F2 here. And finally, Revenant. I really like playing this class, but I don't understand why I can't change a legend while it's on cooldown. It is still on cooldown, which means that I can't use it anyway, nor in combat, so I should have the option to swap it without waiting. This is possible with all other skills, so I think it should be possible with legends as well. Next thing I had in mind, just like with NG, was to adjust the background window behind skills to the amount of skills. Because right now there is just too much unused space. Revenant has only 3 utility skills we can choose from, and one from Elite and Heal, so the background could be adjusted to that width. Regarding the Centaur stance, I have 2 heal skills to choose from. Perhaps there could actually be an option to stow the tablet so it wouldn't be visible. And Vindicator. When I'm swapping an alliance, I would like to see a better indication, e.g. a name of alliance to which I swapped here at the icon. There could be definitely some information upon hover, and based on which alliance I chose, maybe there could be more of the orange part and less of the blue, and the other way around. Or it could just flip or something. So that is my take on the classes. I'd suggest that if we would make any changes in this part of the build, there could be some button to change it to the actual skills we have equipped. Meaning that if, for example, on Ellie, I would swap from earth to air here, but originally I would be at water, the new button would revert these changes into being on water again. I would also remove the cooldowns on the skills in this window, so it can really serve as a preview, while the actual cooldowns appear on the main icons. If an actual skill is on cooldown, maybe it could have a very discreet indicator that the skill is on cooldown. So if you get to the end, congratulations, you earned good karma and a badge of honor. In all seriousness though, thank you so much for watching. This has been a very long project for me to do, but very fun. I think UI and UX is a lot about problem solving, and I enjoy doing that, especially for such fun project as this one. I may do part 2 or even 3, but we will see how this one goes. So again, I really like this game, and I want it to get better, if it's possible. I cannot wait for what the future brings for Guild Wars 2. I'd like to pay special thanks to Andres and Annette for feedbacks and the amazing intro drawings, so thanks guys. Alright, thank you again for watching, enjoy the outro, and see you in the game.